Hi everyone, really quick video today. You may have seen my article yesterday called Learn Social Rules Then Break Them. So today I thought I'd go through a really quick step-by-step approach of how to actually do that in a positive way. Because as I showed in the article, if we blindly follow social rules, then that kind of doesn't really serve us very well. And at the same time, if we blindly disobey them, then that can be even worse because consequences for disobeying social rules are often things like isolation, social exclusion, ostracization, things like that. So if you want to break a rule without those consequences, the first thing to do is to know your culture. And what I mean by that is, what does everyone else do? I need to know the norm so before I can start saying what difference am I going to make by doing something different. So then I want to identify the change of a different behavior that I want to do differently. Identify the consequences of that behavior. Specifically, how is my different behavior going to make other people feel? Because how they feel is going to be the root of all negative or positive consequences. So once I know how my behavior is different to the culture and how it's going to make other people feel, I can actively mitigate any risk of any negative emotions that I'm causing in other people. And a very easy way to do that in a lot of cases is to tell a story or to explain to others what I'm actually doing in that situation, so that they don't think, oh, that behavior is really weird, and come up with a less than positive explanation in themselves of why I'm doing that behavior. Like they might think I'm crazy, or they might think I'm rude or arrogant or selfish or anything. So if they know why I'm doing it, or even if they don't know exactly my reasons, if there is a socially acceptable reason, then that's fine too. So a couple of quick examples with this. I went to a conference recently, and to cut a long story short, I didn't want to shake anyone's hand. So what I did, I couldn't just say, I don't want to shake your hand, because that would be breaking a social rule. So what I did is I wrapped my right hand in a bandage, and then if anyone asked me about it, I would say, as a joke, it's a networking injury from shaking too many people's hands. And that means that I went the whole conference without shaking anyone's hand and without making anyone think that I'm rude or socially inappropriate for not wanting to do that. I have a friend who knits everywhere in public. Her name is Prue, and we did an interview on meltdowns a little while back, which you can check out. And so instead of like stimming in public and looking a little bit strange, she knits in public, and that's socially acceptable. And all of a sudden people think that that's a nice thing. Oh, what are you knitting? What are you doing? What's your project? As opposed to, oh, you must be mentally disturbed because you're doing some things that I don't understand. I actually have a very similar strategy when I'm out and I've got my headphones in. And if I've got headphones in, people think that I'm listening to music. So the story that I'm telling people non-verbally is, I'm listening to music right now, which means if I'm bopping along to the music or tapping on things or whatever, they think that it's because of the music, and all of a sudden that's socially acceptable because they can empathize and understand what's going on for me. Because if they were having earphones in, listening to music, then they might do a similar thing. So that's pretty straightforward. Another one I use all the time is I like to pace around often. You can see that sometimes I like to move, and if I'm waiting in a doctor's surgery or somewhere else, very often people will tell me to take a seat, please sit down. And I will tell them that I sit down all day. I work in front of a computer. A lot of people can understand this. I sit down all day. I would rather stand, or I would rather walk around, because I sit down all day. Now, that's half true, or at least mostly true, and then they don't need to know all of the processing preferences that I have as to why I like to pace around. All they need to know is, oh, he's pacing, he's fine, he's happy, it's all good. Which means that I know that everyone else would sit down in this situation. I know that I want to stand up and pace around, which is very different to what everyone else does. So that's going to come up as a little bit strange. And therefore, people are going to worry if I'm okay. And they're going to say, would you like a seat? Are you anxious? Would you like a drink of water? Is there something I can do for you? You're pacing around. What's wrong? So I can mitigate that risk by telling a story of, I like to sit down. I sit down all day, so I'd really like to just stand and walk around. So that's been a pretty quick video of how to break social rules politely. So you'll notice that with all this stuff, the key is knowing how my actions are going to make other people feel. So managing emotions makes everything easier, especially social situations and dealing with other people. So you can imagine that if I accidentally make people around me feel uncomfortable, for example, then that's going to have a lot of negative consequences for me, because they're not going to want to talk to me, they're not going to want to employ me, they're not going to want to have anything to do with me if I make them feel bad. So learning how to manage emotions makes everything easier, and that's why I've started my own business teaching it online. So this has made a huge difference in my life. It's just really freeing to know that I don't have to do what everyone else is doing. So I hope that's been useful for you. To learn more, you can check out emotionsexplained.com.au, and I will see you soon.